Shalom, and welcome to Hebrew Bible Secrets with your host, Rabbi Beaton. We're reading today from the book of Luke, starting at chapter 6. Luke, chapter 6, verse 1. 1. And it came to pass, on the second Sabbath after the first, that he went through the grain fields, and his disciples plucked the heads off the grain, and did eat, rubbing them in their hands. 2. And certain of the Pharisees said to them, Why do you do that which is not permitted to do on the Sabbath days? 3. And Yahushua answering them said, Have you not read so much as this, what David did when he was hungry, and they which were with him? 4. And he went into the Beth house of Elohim, and did take and eat the showbread, and gave also to them that were with him, which is not lawful to eat, but for the Kohen alone. 5. And he said to them, that the Son of Man is Master, Adon, Lord, also of the Sabbath. 6. And it came to pass also on another Sabbath, that he entered into the Qahal, and taught, and there was a man whose right hand was withered. 7. And the experts in the Torah and Pharisees watched him, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, that they might find an accusation against him. 8. But he knew their thoughts, and said to the man which had the withered hand, Rise up, and stand forth in the midst. And he arose and stood forth. 9. Then said Yahushua to them, I will ask ye one thing. Is it permissible, according to Torah, on the Sabbath days, to do good, or to do evil, to rescue life, or to destroy it? 10. And looking round about upon them all, he said to the man, Stretch forth your hand. And he did so, and his hand was restored whole as the other. 11. And they were filled with mindless rage, and debated one with another what they might do to Yahushua. 12. And it came to pass in those days that he went out into a mountain to petition, and continued all night in petition to Elohim. 13. And when it was day, he called to him his disciples, and of them he chose 12, whom also he named emissaries. 14. Shimon, Simon, whom he also named Kepha, Peter, and Andrew, his brother, Yaakov and Yehochanan, John, Philip and Bartholomew. 15. Metidyahu and Thomas, Yaakov, the son of Alphaeus, and Shimon, called Zelotes. 16. And Yehuda, the brother of Yaakov, and Yehuda, Quirith, which also was the traitor. 17. And he came down with them, and stood in the plain, and the company of his disciples, and the great multitude of people out of all Yehuda and Jerusalem, and from the sea coast of Sor, Tyre, and Sidon, which came to hear him, and to be healed of their diseases. 18. And they that were vexed with unclean ruachot, spirits, demons, and they were healed. 19. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went out power from him, and he healed them all. 20. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples, and said, Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of Elohim. 21. Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for you shall laugh. 22. Blessed are ye when men shall hate ye, and when they shall separate ye from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil, for the Son of Man's sake. 23. Rejoice in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in the Shemaim. For in like manner did the Avot fathers to their prophets. 24. But woe to you that are rich, for you have received your comfort already. 25. Woe to you that are full, for you shall hunger. Woe to you that laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. 26. Woe to you, when all men shall speak well of ye, for so did their Avot fathers to the false prophets. 27. But I say to you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate ye. 28. Speak well of them that curse you, and petition for them which despitefully use ye. 29. And to him that strikes you on the one cheek, offer also the other. And him that took away your cloak, forbid not to take your tunic also. 30. Give to every man that asks of you, and of him that took away your goods, ask them not again. 31. And as you would that man should do to you, do also to them likewise. 32. For if you love them which love ye, what credit have ye? For transgressors also love those that love them. 33. And if ye do good to them which do good to ye, what credit have you? For transgressors also do even the same. 34. And if you lend to them of whom you expect to receive, what favour have you? For transgressors also lend to transgressors, to receive as much again. 35. But love your enemies, and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and you shall be the children of the highest. For he is kind to the unthankful, and to the evil. 36. Be you therefore merciful, as your Av also is merciful. 37. Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you shall be forgiven. 38. Give, and it shall be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that you measure, it shall be measured to you again. 39. And he spoke a parable to them. Can the blind lead the blind? Shall they not both fall into the ditch? 40. The disciple is not above his rabbi, but everyone, when fully trained, will be like his rabbi. 41. And why behold you the speck that is in your brother's eye, but see not the wooden beam that is in your own eye? 42. So then, how can you say to your brother, Brother, let me pull out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself see not the wooden beam that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the wooden beam out of your own eye, and then shall you see clarity to pull out the speck that is in your brother's eye. 43. For a good etz tree does not bring forth corrupt fruit, neither does a corrupt etz tree bring forth good fruit. 44. For every etz tree is known by its own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, nor of bramble bush gather they grapes. 45. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. For of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaks. 46. And why call me Master, Master, Adonai, Adonai, Lord, Lord, and do not do the things which I say? 47. For whosoever comes to me and hears my sayings and does them, I will show you to whom he is like. 48. He is like a man who built a beth, a house, and dug deep, and laid the foundation on a rock. And when the flood arose, the stream beat vehemently upon the beth, the house, and could not shake it, for it was well built. 49. But he that hears and does not is like a man that is without a foundation, and built a beth, a house, upon the earth, again which the stream did beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of the beth house was great. So that now brings us to the end of chapter 6. So let's go back and have a look at some of the footnotes in chapter 6. So the first footnote we have is in verse 1. And it came to pass on the second Sabbath after the first that he went through the grain fields, and his disciples plucked the heads of grain and did eat, rubbing them in their hands. Okay, so let's have a look at this, rubbing them in their hands. So we have here, see footnote, Matthew 12 and 2. So let's have a look at Matthew 12 and 2. So Matthew 12 and 2 reads, "But when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, 'Behold, your disciples do that which is not permitted to do upon the Sabbath day.'" So we have a footnote for Sabbath day, and it reads, "It is permissible according to Torah to pluck the grain with your hands, but not to use a sickle, as per Deuteronomy 23:25. The disciples did not use a sickle, so they were not breaking the Torah, nor profaning the Sabbath. However, all Torah forbids such a thing, but in circumstances of hunger leading to loss of life, it would be permissible. Yahushua agreed even with this oral Torah principle and shows that it is permissible in issues of hunger leading to loss of life. This would have also been the case with King David, who was not allowed to eat the showbread due to loss of life, which was only for the priests. Some Hebrew people observed a fast at the onset of the Sabbath and would not eat bread until the morning Shakriyat prayer. Sacrifice was offered in the temple. This was also done because they were trying to give the plants a rest. This was then considered offensive to the Hebrew people when the disciples were found eating during their set fast. The disciples were not just taking a stroll, but were being chased by the Romans, and Herod was after Yahshua. So this incident was one of life being threatened. So the reason obviously why they were eating the grains and also the showbread was because they were being chased by the Romans, and and Herod was after Yahushua. Okay, so we also have, let me see, Deuteronomy 23 and 25. So let's have a look at that quickly. So Deuteronomy 23:25 reads, "When you come into the standing wheat of your neighbour, then you may pluck the ears with your hand, but you shall not move a sickle to your neighbour's standing wheat." Okay, so that is Deuteronomy 23:25. So we're talking about on the Sabbath day. So on the Sabbath day, we are not to use a sickle. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 3. "And Yahshua answering them said, 'Have you not read so much as this, what David did when he was hungry, and they which were with him?'" So for that, it says, read Matthew 12 and 2, which I've just read. So we'll go to the next footnote, which is in verse 5. "And he said to them, that the Son of Man is Master, Adon, Lord, also of the Sabbath." So let's have a look at this. Also of the Sabbath. "This is not a call to break the Sabbath laws, but was to show that the Sabbath was created by Yahweh. It is for humans to rest." Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 20. "And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, 'Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of Elohim.'" So let's have a look at this, kingdom of Elohim. So we see Matthew 5 and 3 and Isaiah 11 and 4. So let's have a look at Matthew 5 and 3 first. So Matthew 5 and 3 reads, "Blessed are the poor in Ruach, spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of Shamayim, heaven." So we have a footnote for Ruach, spirit. So the footnote reads, "He is not referring to men without money, but men who long for true spirituality and are poor in that they desire to receive this. It is more to do with being humble to accept the words of Yahweh, as suggested in Psalm 25, 9-10, that talks about working Yahweh's way. This is the same way, meaning Torah, that Yeshua said will set you free by being his disciple in Yehochanan 8:31. By abiding in the word, which is an idiomatic expression for Torah obedience." Okay? So we have also Psalm 25, 9 and 10. So let's have a look at Psalm 25, 9 and 10. So Psalm 25, 9 and 10 reads, "The meek ones will he guide in righteousness, and the meek ones will he teach his way." 10. "All the paths of Yahweh are loving kindness and truth to such as keep his covenant and his testimonies." So we have a footnote for testimonies. So it says here, the covenant and true report both point to keeping and obeying Torah. Okay? So then we also have a footnote in Isaiah 11 and 4. So let's have a look at Isaiah 11 and 4. Isaiah 11 and 4, and it reads, "And with judgment in judging the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he put to death the wicked." Okay, so this is talking about Yahshua here. So we have a footnote for "with the rod of his mouth." So we have here, this is the Torah judgment and not a literal sword. Okay? So this is when Yahshua will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, which is the Torah. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 21. "Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for you shall laugh." So we have a footnote for "you shall laugh." So let's have a look at this. So it says, look at footnote in Matthew 5 and 4. Okay, let's have a look at Matthew 5 and 4. So Matthew 5 and 4 reads, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." Okay, so we have a footnote for "blessed are they that mourn." So let's have a look at this. So the ones mourning the occupation of Rome on the land given to their forefathers, echoed in Tefillin 42:9 and Mishle, Proverbs 29:2. The other people Yahshua was referencing were the ones mourning the first destruction of the Beth Hamidash, the temple, when they all went into exile. Tefillin 1:37 and 1. Okay, so we've got a few footnotes there. So we've got Psalm 42 and 9. So let's have a look at Psalm 42 and 9. So Psalm 42 and 9, and it reads, I will say to El, my rock, why have you forsaken me? Why do I go mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? Okay. And we also have another footnote in here. So we also have Proverbs 29 and 2. So let's have a look at Proverbs 29 and 2. So Proverbs 29 and 2, and it reads, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bears rule, the people mourn. Okay, and we have one last footnote, which is Psalms 137 and 1. So 137 and 1, and it reads, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yes, we wept when we remembered Zion. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote. Which is in verse 29. And to him that strikes you on the one cheek, offer also the other. And him that took away your cloak, forbid not to take away your tunic also. So we have a footnote here for tunic also. And it reads, see footnote Matthew 5:39. So let's have a look at Matthew 5:39. So Matthew 5:39 reads, but I say to you, that you resist not an evildoer, but whosoever shall strike you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. Okay, so we have a footnote here for evildoer. And it reads, quoted out of Proverbs 20:22, Yahshua would be like a great Hasidic rabbi who was in similar contrast as the Hasids. Okay, and we also have another footnote here, turn to him the other also. So we have here, the Torah commands us to withstand evil and oppose it. However, this situation is different. This is about the evil intention of a person centered on a personal argument between two people and not about defending country and respect. By this illustration, we are shown not to prolong the argument or throw accusatory words against each other and making it even worse. We are taught humility by letting the other person win the argument, and the next part of the verse mentioned is being slapped by the right hand, which is the side of judgment or wrath. This is in reference to a reverse hand slap on your right cheek using the back of the hand of the right hand. The Sephirot tells us that the right side is the side of strength. This shows us that the whole verse is paraphrased around two people arguing, and the slap is not a literal slap, but insulting remarks that the evil intended person makes against us. We are to allow him room for both right side and left side slaps, meaning insults thrown at us, and not to return insults with insults. It takes humility to withstand the onslaught of an angry man or woman who is mean to you and swears at you. Most people will retort, but we are commanded not to retort. but to allow that person to vent her anger against us. Why it mentions the right side first and then the left side is just to show us that this person is not balanced in his approach, and he is certainly not following the Torah. He represents those from the nations out of balance and who get angry for no reason. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 38. Give, and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that you measure, it shall be measured to you again. So let's have a look at this. So we have here, this is a common saying in the Mishnah, the Oral Torah, Sota 1:7. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 42. So then, how can you say to your brother, Brother, let me pull out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself see not the wooden beam that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the wooden beam out of your eye, and then shall you see clearly to pull out the speck that is in your brother's eye. So let's have a look at this. So that is the problem with Christendom, that cannot see the beam in their eye or their eyes, trying to take the speck from Judah's eyes when they have a plank in their own eyes. Apparently, it is called a cross. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which we have in verse 48. He's like a man who built a Beth, a house, and dug deep, and laid the foundation on a rock. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Foundation on the rock. So this is relating to on the Torah. Okay, so the rock is the Torah and the Torah commandments. So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 49. But he that hears and does not is like a man that is without a foundation, and built a Beth, a house, upon the earth. So let's have a look at this, upon the earth. So this is non-Torah observance. So now brings us to the end of chapter 6. And I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the other side. This is Rabbi Beaton saying, thank you for watching. Baruch Shem Kivod Malkuto Le'olam Va'ed. But never be the name of his esteemed kingdom, forever and ever and ever. Amen.